I want the world to know how unprofessional the team of the Hour of Comics is upon us.
Of
Upon us.
Please, Greg,
Please, please, yes.
share
Lecture
your
us on professionalism,
thoughts
sir.
on views on
If this
professionalism here.
behavior went on in my team, they would be fired instantly.
We're the uppopotamus, I think. Is that what you call us?
Hold on a second. Anyway, so Greg, you were about to talk about how unprofessional I am.
No, the team of the Hour of Comics is upon us. And
Okay.
in all my life of podcasting career, I have never seen more of a. But you guys are like the cast of Cheers, who was plastered all the time. I want focus when I'm on a podcast. I am considering having this be my last appearance now, and I am just appalled.
Oh, heaven willing.
Yeah, I am just appalled by this behavior of. Okay, folks, I guess I should say what I'm.
Yeah, we don't even know what you're talking about here.
These people scheduled their podcast for 7:15, and at 7:00, they're just all chatting in the room because it had to be 7:15 for whatever reason, and they're all chatting in the chat room, sharing pictures of them as teenagers when we can get this show on the road.
Do you not realize that you were not there, and that's why we didn't start the show?
I was told a 7:15 start time. So by the time I came in, whenever it was, I don't know, 10 after 7.
7:11, I think, yeah.
We started early.
Right. So
then we started early.
Well,
we started before 7:15.
Technically, we didn't start until 7:16, which was
This
my
is still
fault.
early for us.
Yeah.
well, you know what the funny? Yeah. Well, the funny part.
The pre-show chat is part of the whole
started,
thing.
Like I came in and it was just the chatting started.
I guess to be fair, Greg did ask me if it was necessary to add him to the chat, and I rather insisted on it. So it was, that is my fault.
Yeah.
It's crazy that we like each other and actually talk to each other outside of this.
Well, Greg, what you should be very happy about is that you weren't in the chat earlier with the photos we were sharing then, because there might have been crimes involved.
Oh, so that was post me, pre me joining.
Yeah, you were not part of the April 1st episode where Ken misinterpreted the assignment and like downloaded some illegal hentai, right? That was
from the dark web.
Right, from the dark. Yes.
There was more tentacles than I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, you saw it too. So today, we're breaking the mold again. Believe it or not, we're doing something a little different today.
That's very appropriate. I'm here when you really are doing something a little different.
It is. But I also did something a little different with Craig McNeil on the other podcast, Bullshit Hour. And that was that I didn't just start the episode in the middle of a sentence. It was very very unique to that episode that I actually said hello everyone when I first started the episode. Anyway, today I'm very excited to announce Jason Gurin's debut as the moderator of this. Ken is now licking his fingers as
well. You said but.
It's only a day, but this is the nighttime.
Okay.
So yes.
Okay.
Anyway.
Okay.
And so this is in seriousness. This is Jason Gurin's debut as moderator of any podcast ever, but specifically the Hour of Comics is upon us.
May I say something?
Of course you may.
I'm honored to be part of Jason's first moderating podcast, but also I love the fact that I was part of Jason's first podcast ever appearance as well. So this means a lot to me because you know how much I love Jason Gurin. So
right back at you, brother.
Right. I won't mention that Dave Aguilar was his first choice, and that's fine.
But I knew that, and then by happenstance, this happened to happen anyway. So
it did happen anyway because Dave is not available on Wednesdays, and we're doing this episode on a Wednesday,
or Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, or Sundays,
or any day that he doesn't respond to his text messages. Anyway, so Jason Gurin is going to be talking about a series. It's I guess limited series. Like it's like a one shot 8 issue series.
Mini
Uh,
series.
it's
Like
a mini series. There's no sequels to it. I think there's like you told me about. There's one comic that kind of like is in the same timeline, but they really didn't do anything else with it. This is
as
from
much as I love these books, that one really
yeah.
just didn't
It
really.
didn't
I didn't
do
even
it
feel
for
like
you.
we needed to
All right.
include it.
So this is it. This is 8 Billion Genies by let me tell me if I'm butchering these names. Charles
I've got
Soule.
this all ready to go if you want, John.
Well, I'm just saying the names of these guys, because I have to start the show and then pass it over to you. So, um 8 Billion Genies 2022, Charles Soule and Ryan Brown. Is that how you pronounce these names?
That is correct. And
Okay. Excellent. Jason, because you seem so eager to do so, take it away.
right on. So, guys, thanks for doing this with me. I've been clamoring to do this book for quite some time, pretty much since I read it a few years back. I've always wanted to share it with more people and talk about it with more people. And there's news that this might even become a TV show at some point. So I feel like it's good fodder for us, and it's just zany. So that always works for us as well. As John mentioned, this is written by Charles Soule and illustrated by Ryan Brown. They've done books such as Curse Words, God Hates Astronauts, and they're currently writing a book called Lucky Devils, which is on issue 4 right now. Also pretty good. Soule has been a very heralded Star Wars writer. He does both books and comics. Probably over the past 10 to 12 years, he pretty much steered the entire Marvel Star Wars storyline, and he's still going. Now they're past Return of the Jedi, and he's still writing them. I'd also like to say that I've met these guys, which is also probably why I'm like a little more into it as well. They're awesome people. I remember at the Comic-Con I was at, Ryan Brown being the illustrator, he was offering sketch covers, and it was from God Hates Astronauts sketch covers. And for this, it was just like kind of like a body, and then like it left a head open where he would draw on a head. So I get there onto line, I get to meet him, say how much I love their work. And I was like, you know what? I don't really know what to draw. I'm like, maybe dealer's choice. Ryan looks at me, goes, dude, I have been drawing cocks all day. That's what everybody's asking me to draw. Everybody, look at all this, all these heads. They just want penises on top. So I was like, you know what? We're going to go in a different direction. I happen to be wearing a T-shirt with Abraham Lincoln on it. So we made it Abraham Lincoln on that particular cover. And that's coveted comic of mine. But anyway, to get into the 8 billion genies, the basic premise of this story is that once the world population hits 8 billion, every single person in the world gets a genie. And obviously with that happening, chaos will immediately ensue. So I hope you guys enjoyed reading this, and we're going to have a good time talking about it. Just to go over a couple things of the first 2 issues real quick, just to give a little breakdown, and then we'll get into a little bit of discussion. So the story opens up at a place called the Lampwick Bar, who's owned by a Will Williams, who looks very much like our own Ken Radner. If we had video, you guys would understand that. Maybe we'll just have to look him up on Facebook after the podcast. You guys will know exactly what you're talking about.
I'll make Ken's face the picture of this episode.
Yeah, perfect. So the people besides Will in this current bar, there's a Chinese couple named Wang and his wife Li Feng. There's a man named Ed and his son named Robbie. And then there's a band in there consisting of Alex, Brian, and Daisy. And basically what happens is pretty much, they give a little backstory on everybody, just what's going on with their lives and the trouble within their lives. But very quickly, we get right into the genies. They all appear. They say that, the population has hit 8 billion, and now every single human gets 1 genie. And their thing is, you know what? 3 wishes are great, but 1 wish is a lot more fun and a lot more disasters to come. So immediately, as soon as it starts, we see the bartender, Will, and this guy knows what he's doing. And he says right away, I wish that no wish made outside this bar can affect this bar or anyone or anything inside of it. And this is basically what's considered the first haven, as we'll learn later as we read more. We also know that the Chinese couple in there is trying to get to another bar called the Lamplighter. They've gone to the wrong place. So they've ended up being very lucky by this mistake. But, their goal is to get over to this other bar, which we don't know their motivations quite yet. And then we see in the outside world, once they open the door, the very last couple pages, the whole world's just gone bonkers at this point. Even within just a couple minutes, people getting their wishes. I'm sure most of us and most of our friends would probably do a lot of stupid shit too. And it's basically whatever craziness could pop into their head. That's what they've put on these pages, and we see a splash page right away of robots, wizards, and floating palaces, and you're like, oh boy, all right, this is starting. The world has gone absolutely bonkers. So then we get right into issue 2, and basically it's kind of odd. You start off with a character that's really not seen again, but it's kind of a random family, and they're just kind of making their kids like learn that they need to save their wishes, because kids are even stupider than us, and they're going to just wish for like candy or something, and waste this great deal that they've gotten.
Jason,
So,
I think that was not necessarily about the one family. I feel like that's probably like what they're showing families dealing with, so yeah.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
it's just kind of giving an idea of like, showing one particular person, but this applies to probably the rest of the world, and we see that it does. So inside the bar again, we see Ed. He brings his wife back to life, Judy. Then we learn that Wang still needs to get to that lamplighter, but the world is nuts outside, so he wishes for a super suit to protect him and his family. And then we have the band, which I mentioned before, which was Daisy, Brian, and Alex. And Daisy's a little stupid, so she goes outside to make her wish, obviously not knowing the consequences, but her wish is a very selfish wish, and she wishes that her bandmate would be in love with her. So when she walks back in, she's like, hey, you notice anything different? And he's like, no, not at all. And then they learn, she made that wish outside. Not only did she make a stupid wish, it's wasted. So, basically her story right from the start is like, oh, woe is me. I fucked up. And, how do I get over this for the next 8 issues? And, we obviously do find that out. Right there at the end of the issue, all of a sudden just celebrities show up, other things that crazy people would wish for. So we get Hemingway, Dorothy Parker, and Jim Morrison showing up alive at the bar. And we learn that they're called remnants, which means, obviously they're not fully alive. They've just been brought back to life, and they don't necessarily, really remember much of their lives either. And like I said, that's pretty much the first 2 issues real quick. I hope a lot of people out there have read this already, and just can kind of enjoy what we're talking about. But I just like to ask all of you guys, and, we could just go in any kind of order. But, as far as reading this with the first 2 issues and not completing it yet, and, everybody who's reading this is obviously thinking, oh man, what the hell would I wish for? So in those first 2 issues, I'd just like to know, like, not knowing the consequences of everything quite yet, were there any wishes that you guys would just like spontaneously, automatically just wish for without thinking about? Maybe we start with Jon on this one.
Oh boy. Yeah. I mean, I obviously we're all thinking that when we're reading these first couple of issues, like you go outside and you see all of this insanity already happening, I'm not sure if it was in the first 2 issues or whatever, but like you see like giants, and like was it the guy who turned himself into a superhero so he could get to the other bar, like the other
we'll
bar.
get to that. We're not quite there.
So that hadn't happened yet.
So not everybody has made their wishes yet. And like
Right.
People have wasted them at this point. And in my mind, I was like,
yeah,
reading this, I'm like, what would I wish for? $1 million? Billions of dollars?
Yeah.
Could I do something stupid like that right away?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like when you said, oh, like this comic arc is about how everyone in the world gets their own genie in one wish. What would you wish for? Yeah, like I would probably be one of the people who wouldn't wish right away. Unlike, a lot of the people in the first 8 minutes who had like basically destroyed like 25% of the Earth's population with their wishes. I would probably like wait around to see what happens, even without, having read the story. I'd be like, yeah, it really feels to me like the wishes that I might wish if I was the only one who had a wish would be substantially different from a wish that I would make if everyone in the world had a wish. And, yeah, I don't think I would wish for riches or anything like that. I would probably wish for invincibility, which later turns out later turns out is not even like the best thing to wish for. But
I was kind of thinking myself, I'd be a Wolverine. Like I'd want a healing factor so that I could live a long life and not really feel any pain through it, or not necessarily feel pain, but be able to come back from it. Ken, what about you?
Okay, so the idea of wishing a wish and then suffering consequences because the way you word it can be interpreted different ways is a thought that I've entertained for probably decades. Okay. So I came up with, well, not came up with, I was always entertained by a very specific scenario because, what the majority of people, what would they wish for? If you had a wish, well, I wish for everlasting life. Okay. But you didn't wish for everlasting youth. So you're 5,000 years old and basically a mummy and want to die because you're completely non-functional, but you can't because you can't, no one can even kill you. So that's right out. Don't want that. So everlasting youth. Okay, great. So, you stay, like 20 something forever and it's great. And you walk across the street and get hit by a car as soon as you wish it. Okay. So the closest thing I ever came up to, because there's always, you wish for money, but like you say, I wish for $1 billion, and $1 billion in cash falls 100 feet from the sky on top of you and crushes you immediately.
And I feel like genies would do that too.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Exactly. So the closest thing I could ever think of, because later on we'll get into it, they have the concept of the perfect wish. The closest thing I could come up to was everlasting health. But what would that look like? Because that doesn't mean you wouldn't age. But if you were 5,000 years old, but perfectly healthy, what would that mean? What would it look like? So that's the one thing that was like the latest conclusion I could come to about if you were going to do a wish. Because also everlasting health, you can't be killed. Right?
Yeah, I feel like we had similar thoughts.
Right. But you wouldn't, but also, again, even no matter how old you got and how decrepit you got, you still wouldn't become non-functional because that's part of being healthy. At least I would assume. Again, it could be just another way of saying immortal, but keep aging. I don't know. But that's the way I saw it, as everlasting health. Well, now what do you define health as? And now you get into that great, which they're going to come up later in the series where they have like teams of armies of lawyers trying to construct. I had a feeling it was going to go in that direction because how else could you come up with, the wish? But it was great. I loved the I'm sorry, John, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it was only 25 people in that building. It wasn't like teams and armies. It was 25 people. So
okay, all right, okay.
Yeah.
No, my and also just on a technical standpoint of the comic, the artwork was between the genies and just the general, artwork was really, really contrasted. And I think that's great.
Yeah.
Juxtaposed. Kyle and my favorite word, although I don't use it as much as he does, but I love when he uses it. That I think with modern printing techniques, something that seems like it's easier to do because the typical artwork seemed like almost like a sketch type art or almost like a storyboard type art, not completely smooth or fleshed out, still artistic, almost graffiti like in a way, but had that very specific look to it. And then the genies were almost like superimposed printed painted material over the top of the frame. I thought that was a great comparison. And the power suit wasn't their last name the Zhangs?
Yeah, it was Wang and Li Feng. So Wang was the one with the crazy suit.
Yeah, but his suit was the best thing in the entire comic.
It was like a mini Gundam suit.
It was I showed you what I thought the inspiration was from the suit because of the helmet and the way it was shaped, but that was also kind of like a Gundam design. You called it Gundam, and I think you did that on purpose.
Gundam it,
yeah.
Ken.
And I'll find you.
It's all Dave's fault.
Agreed.
but it was great. It was beautiful, and that was the whole thing about making the wishes. During the whole times they're making wishes, I'm just going through my head of, okay, this was my process. This was okay. So I guess it's time to do it.
Yeah. And sometimes you're like, oh, that was a good one. Maybe I would do that one. What about you, Greg?
Yeah.
What do you got?
Well, I'm really glad that you presented it going with the first two issues, because if you did general impressions of the whole thing, it would be a different conversation. So I'm really glad that you put it this way. All right, if we want to start with what wish I would wish, I'm being completely honest with you guys that through the entire 8 issues of reading this, that's all I was thinking was, I don't know what I would wish for. That was the whole time. Yeah. So would I do something selfish? Would I do something selfless? Would I do something that I think would be for the greater good, but then bites me in the ass? Would I do something just for myself, thinking maybe it would help the greater good? So it was all a bunch of indecisive, and I just didn't know. So with these first 2 issues, and if someone has never heard me on this show before, this is coming from a place of someone who was just not a comic book reader at all. And so that's the kind of perspectives that I'll give here. Because if I think of everything like a movie, and reading this 8-issue story, it's going to seem like a very, if I were thinking of this as a movie, it's a hodgepodge. I mean, I'm excited that you said it's being considered to be a TV series. That's perfect for it. A series where they could follow all the characters in a much more concise way. Because but let's just focus on these 2 issues. So I was enjoying it from the top, and knew right away there's going to be a twist here. I mean, it really does rope you in. It's compelling, and what I like about it, as any of the other comics that I've read, which is like some X-Men stuff and of course Batman stuff. I mean, Batman comics I would read voluntarily, but that being said, it was obviously unlike any other comic that I read before, and that was very refreshing. That this is considered a comic and not a graphic novel, correct?
Yeah, it was a month.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, these first 2 episodes was, what's going to happen? This is definitely twisty. This is definitely interesting, and I also loved that the genies themselves kept you guessing, because I saw them as a character in the way that they were drawn, and the persona that they gave them of kind of like these excited children, is how I took it. But one of the things I was thinking is they're all going to go evil, and the fact that we're getting the countdown of how many people there are to how many genies there are, maybe not, because at first I think it was more, or that the genie numbers were rising and then they went down a bit, but I thought maybe they want to inhabit the earth, and they're just getting rid of humanity by, causing all these wishes. And then the other thing that I noticed off the bat was, okay, this isn't an original parable in any way. This is morality and selfishness and selflessness and materialism and all this kind of stuff has definitely gone over before. It was very Twilight Zone-esque in the satire that it was, because it is a satire, and it's funny as well, because it's just showing. And this was 2022, right?
Yeah, it was
It came out.
years back. Yeah.
Right. So COVID, it was a post-COVID world. It was done beautifully. It was a post-Trump world too. And so they took all of this in mind, that the world seems to be in chaos, but it's been in chaos, for generations. But it's that people, and it asks the question, are people as individuals good people? Are they, as individuals, selfish people? Is it that we're going to find out later that a group, something like a Star Trek message, is that all working together for the greater good? So it had me asking those kind of questions. It had me roped in. It had me thinking, which I won't get into yet because we get to the end. It had me thinking, it was going in, I don't mean this pejoratively, it was going in a pretty obvious direction of where it was going to end up, but it was an interesting vision, and the genies kept me guessing, because I'm like, are these guys here for good, or are these guys imps, like Q, like imps. Always using the Star Trek references, but it's the best. It's the only thing I know how to reference. But yeah, so and they were Casper-like, and they were childlike, and they were, picturing their voices too. It's like, oh, is this going to turn ominous? Sort of like the here I could make a Ghostbusters reference.
That was a
Yeah, I
perfect
could make
call.
a ghost. Yeah, I could make a Ghostbusters reference by saying they seem like the mini Marshmallow Men who look all nice, but they're going to go evil any minute. They're going to bite. So these first two issues, had me roped in, and it was interesting.
I gave the genies the benefit of the doubt, and the reason that I did is because I like, you could very clearly see, okay, like, you word your wish, other people make other wishes, and like, it's like some wishes cancel each other out, but they did say, like, listen, whatever your intent for your wish is going to play out in how the wish is granted. And they were like, we're not going to bullshit you here.
We're going to screw with you, but
yeah, we're going to screw with you. Like, it's basically the monkey's paw. It's basically like, whatever story about someone who has a wish or multiple wishes, they're it's basically saying, do you really want a wish? Because you really never know how it's going to go. And they're telling you all this up front. They're like, look, be careful, because we're going to fuck with you. So,
yeah. And as Greg was saying about the greater good, that kind of leads me right into the beginning of issue 3. We meet this random character named Nigel.
I segued. Yeah. That's what I do.
And he's like, contemplating, like, what good can he do for the world? And he's like, you know what? I'm going to save us from climate change. Such a great thing I'm doing for everybody. But we look at this world that's going on right now. Climate change is the least of our concerns. We see a panel of the moon is now alive, and he's trying to eat Santa Claus. So, I mean, who gives a fuck about climate change at this point? Like, that's completely out the window. Like, why
I also love that his genie was wearing a hat and drinking coffee.
Yep. Yeah, the genies definitely started to chill.
Yes.
So we get back into the bar right after that, and the genies start to explain to us, because we're seeing Jim Morrison now on stage playing with the band. And, mid-song, he just explodes. Poof. So, he did mention he was a remnant, but we didn't know that, if the person who made the wish on the remnant, if they die, bye-bye remnant. So, it's just the monkey's paw, like you were saying, perfect analogy. Like, you're wishing for something great and bringing this person back to the dead. But yeah, it's not perfect. If you bite the dust, so does that person. And that, clearly, we see a lot of that throughout this. Pretty much immediately after Morrison dies, we see Dorothy Parker, and she has a great line. She says, "Human beings are stupid by nature and foolish by choice." Nailed it. And then right after that, Hemingway bites it. So they're all gone. And then, we cross over back to Wang in his Gundam suit. And he finally makes it to the lamplighter, and we learn that he was being blackmailed. But, in this new world, why does he have to get blackmailed? He just kills the blackmailer. That's all he needed to do. And then, back at the bar, Robbie, the son of Ed, he's now back with his mom, who's a remnant, obviously. But, they're still there for now, so we're all good there. But he wants to protect his family, so he wishes to be a superhero of sorts. And he leaves the bar, flying off and say, "Mom, Dad, I'm going to go find a much safer place for us to live. We can't live in this bar our whole life." And, pretty much at the end of issue 3 is really where this gets going. And I feel like the first 3 issues were a lot of setup, great setup, but, it was just laying down the tracks for everything else to come afterwards. So just real quick before I get into issue 4, and start with Greg on this one. And let's just say you had more than one wish, or you were just really into celebrities or famous people. If you could bring back that one famous person, who are you bringing back?
Oh man, you're putting me on the spot.
Oh,
wow,
yeah, that's what we do here.
Oh my God, can I think of that and then get back to you?
Yeah, we can go back around to you. Anybody else got one right off the top of their head?
Well, yeah, Cobain came to my head.
Oh, that was mine.
Cobain, all right.
Yeah, but I don't know if he'd be my final, but he's the one that, because I'm like, should I bring back Cobain? Should I bring back, Ernie Kovacs, a guy who set in motion the modernized, humor of the random absurd. Do I want to talk to him and talk about the process, or someone who, Andy Kaufman, who came after him, but Ernie Kovacs said all that kind of nonsense into motion, and ask Ernie Kovacs, how do I become like the perfect you? So yeah, I mean, I could go in many places, but you're talking celebrity strictly,
Yeah,
right?
let's just say like that. We're one of these people at this moment where we get that wish, and we're just like, you know what, screw it. I'm wishing for somebody I never met or never got to see before, and that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And for me, I was
so
thinking
people
Nirvana.
like
I was
that.
like, I never got to see them. He died before I got around to really going to a lot of concerts. That'd be my one.
Kurt Cobain, but if you want to go musician route, Chris Cornell or any of those people, and try to tell them why they are worth more than what they thought they were worth.
Fair.
It's very surprising. Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's very surprising what?
No, I was just going to say it's very surprising of Cobain wasn't so much, but you look at a personality like Anthony Bourdain, go, this guy, you think back and you go, oh, I could see some cynicism in him for sure, but it's like this guy is a rock star and has it all figured out, and like, sitting and eating with Anthony Bourdain was just like so cool, and to actually get a story and a philosophy out of a plate of food was so amazing. And he goes and he kills himself, and that's a shock. So to talk to some of the, or choose someone that had committed suicide, a famous person who's committed suicide, and say, do you know how much people love you and value you and that kind of thing, so.
And then the genie would say, when we ask, like, why is this character here? Well, Greg wished for it, as the genies do like to tell you about everything that's going on. I did like that whole facet of them. They definitely
very good plot point.
Right. And let's hope that
a very good plot point. Yeah.
That no one wished for a Midas touch, and then, touches Greg, all of a sudden Greg is gone, and then yeah. Anyway, Paul Rubens in his youth, I would want to see him perform for sure. And, maybe this time not be so private about his personal life. As we learned, his personal life was tumultuous. So, that'd be kind of cool.
I like it. Ken?
All right, so if we're just talking about entertainment people, I mean, there's a long list, but I guess if we're going to go with the comic theme, it would be Stan Lee, just simply because everything, how much was created out of what he introduced, and the idea of how forward-looking he was like, almost like, okay, here we go with Star Trek. He was like a Roddenberry of comics. He had an incredibly, yep. He had a great benevolent vision of the future, and a conceivable way of how we could all get there. And if we're just going as by an entertainer, I just think not only what he created, but then what came out of what he created, it seems like still having him around would get,
good for humanity as well.
You get such a wealth out of what he would offer.
I would be one of those selfish human beings that would just, hell, I never got to see him play before. So that's all right, good deal. All right, so anyway, we are on to issue 4. And basically right at the start, we see that Robbie Green has now become a superhero named Sunman. And he's not the only person who's thought to make himself a superhero. We have superheroes, we have supervillains. Basically, it's just, the whole issue is just a lot of just crazy fights between just, we find out as a lot of kids, basically, who are making these wishes to become superheroes and villains. So he kicks ass the entire issue. He's fighting 2 Godzillas in Tokyo because, if you lived in Tokyo, why wouldn't you wish for Godzilla? I mean, what's wrong with you?
And one of them is wearing a watch.
Yeah.
One of them has a watch on, which I loved.
But I would say the biggest takeaway from issue 4, and I think this is the twist that really hit me when I was reading it, because I was really not expecting this, is that the bartender Will reveals that he was a genie, and he was the last one from the last world. And basically what he says is that the world gets too full of want, this happens, and it's happened before. He said, humanity is a right now species, and down the road is a struggle. And then we just kind of cut back to Sunman, and he's at this haven, and he runs into this guy called the Idea Man. And then we get into that into issue 5, and his name is Floyd Vaughn. But just when you guys got to that part in issue 4,
I think that's Floyd Fawn, isn't it? Not Vaughn.
Fawn?
I thought it was Fawn. Floyd Fawn. Unless I'm going crazy, I thought it was Floyd Fawn.
Fawn. It could be. Yeah. Maybe it was a typo on my end here.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
But just when you guys first saw Will reveal that, what was your feeling on that? Were you guys at all shocked by it, or just did you see it coming a little bit? Because I came out of left field for me, so I just want to see what you guys think. And let's start with Ken this time.
So the perception I got once Will made that his wish, as soon as everything happened, and he was the first one to do it, so you knew he had some kind of experience. You could tell, and just the idea that he's explaining things the entire time, so you knew something was up with him. And when he reveals that he's a genie, it is a surprise, but also it's not unexpected, I guess, in a way. You say, oh, that's surprising, but yeah, okay, it makes sense. He's obviously been through this before, or something like that. Like, you get the feeling that he's a veteran to a certain degree. He knows what to do immediately, or he's thought about this heavily before, something like that. So I wasn't, of course, surprised, but not like, oh, no way.
Yeah, I guess from my first read, I just didn't see it.
Makes perfect sense.
And I will say, going back and reading it the second time, like the panels, like even the genies when they're talking to him, you're like, it's just like so obvious reading it the second time, obviously.
Because they know each other.
Yeah, they know each other. And he's like, so what's your wish? And just like the way he's like kind of looking at him and saying it like almost like with a squint. And then you read that back and after reading it, you're like, oh shit, it was right there in front of us the whole time.
But I just also, as an aside, I like when they, like you said, they start this issue and there's everybody being superheroes. Doesn't someone say, okay, we've entered the superhero phase now?
Yep.
Like, was it Will that said? I think it was Will that said it, right? That we've entered the superhero phase now?
He was bringing us through the phases. There was like the fighting phase, and then there's the strategy phase, like it's all of that.
Right. Yeah. So that's also where you get the idea that how does he know what's going on? So they're not being overly secretive about the idea that he knows a little something about this beforehand.
Yeah. What about you, Greg? Shocked or kind of saw it coming?
I could keep this conversation moving along. I have no disagreements with Ken. Ken is my thoughts exactly.
Same. All right, good deal. John?
So yeah, in the beginning, those first few issues, I will not lie, I did have the thought, how is it that this guy is so knows exactly what to do, knew exactly what to wish for, has his whole place stocked for a situation like this, like he knew it was going to happen, but it did not occur to me that he was a genie. It was it was like when they said, "Oh, yeah, I'm a genie. Isn't it obvious?" I was like, "Huh, yeah, it should have been." But but I guess it wasn't. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on it. And he looks like Ken.
For sure. Yep. So I would say these first 4 issues, I felt like they were like a little bit meatier. I feel like the next 4, as much as I love them, they all went very, very quick and
very emotional. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of things happened all very quickly. So like I said, in issue 5, we meet Floyd and his wish that he wishes that people would believe in him, which basically gave him like this crazy superpower.
Floyd Fawn.
Okay.
Yes,
sorry.
Fawn. Yes. No, you're good. You're good. Yeah. Floyd Fawn. Yeah.
So to have that superpower, to have everybody believe in you, basically anybody that you talk to is going to almost do what you say. And that's what he becomes. He becomes this very powerful character who has this place called Hope's Hollow, another haven. And, we learn that people who've used their wishes already are now called the Spent. and their lives are now no longer as valuable as people who still have their genies and have a little something to give back to the world, or even take away, or use for good or evil at this point still. And then basically craziness happens with something called the scouring, and the entire world is basically destroyed except for the havens. And there are quite a few havens throughout the world. Enough people, were smart enough to, make these kind of wishes and create these kind of places. And they almost start like taking genies in and like trading genies and holding genies, using genies as weapons. And then the idea man comes up with an ironclad wish, and that you have to be very loyally to make a lot of these wishes to make them all work. And then he wishes for the refreshing. So the world does come back. So, even though the whole world's destroyed, it is now brought back, reborn, but still bonkers. The moon's still alive. He's still smiling and eating at people. There's still giant robots flying over. There's, clouds with palaces in them, and just, people are bananas walking down the street. Just any kind of crazy. I mean, figure crackheads have a wish. So, I mean,
Yeah.
They might just do something absolutely insane.
I wish for crack.
And, there's just a lot of nutty people in this world. It doesn't mean just because you're at the Belle Reve Hospital doesn't mean you don't get a wish. So they too are going to just, make this world absolutely nuts. So, we kind of get right into, at the end of issue 5, the band is basically breaking up. And I mean that as all the characters that we know at this point. Alex and Brian still have their wishes, which is very valuable. They decide to, leave the bar. The Chinese couple gives birth to a baby, and we learn that her genie can't do anything. Babies cannot make wishes, thank God. So she has till she's 8 years old to, work that out. And then we see Sunman return. He takes his parents back to the Haven with the Idea Man. And, that's pretty much it with issue 5. Like I said, it's all very quick. We get right into issue 6. And just before we, get into the whole thing with Idea Man really becoming the villain of this story at this point, I asked about the celebrities and, just like also a spontaneous wish. But if you could do something absolutely crazy bonkers with your wish, does anybody have one that they would? Do you have anything that would top turning the moon into an alive creature?
I feel like that's a pointless wish. I feel like that does nothing
you're
for
nuts,
anyone.
and you're just like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm nuts, and I'm gonna be nuts, and I'm gonna make a crazy wish.
Oh, well, see, a crazy wish for a nut that doesn't do anything for anyone. Huh. Maybe I would wish for. No, I can't say it. The Earth to be flat? No, forget that. No, I
We're
would
on the
never.
hot dog Earth now. Forget flat Earth.
Never wish for that. That's because that would just kill everyone.
Oh my God, there'd be so many people who'd say, "I told you so, John."
I told you so. Yeah, well, I made it so. I think that would be the absolute most crazy wish that I could think of.
I like that. That's perfect for you.
Yeah.
Well, guys, just so you know, in the chat, John actually tried to act like gravity is a thing instead of density. So
I did. Yes, it's true.
I'm just kind of, I'm calling it like I see it.
And now I'm getting Craig McNeil after you. So that's,
Hey, I'm just asking questions.
He does 400
questions.
He does 400 push-ups a day. So, good luck.
I'm just asking questions. That's
just asking. Anyway.
I don't know, I feel like I would end up just having a whole bunch of talking dogs or something like that. I don't know if I was going, and they'd all, every dog would be able to talk. Something just silly like that would just pop out of my head.
All right. Well, if it was a pointless wish, I would be responsible for a lot of those, glimpse outside, panels, because I would just say if it was a pointless wish, like for nothing, okay, Gundams.
All right.
That's it.
You still have plenty of people who had that wish.
Yeah. That's why I'm saying that's that if it was a pointless wish, you could see, I think a general theme here is we would actually put a little thought into them. But if it was totally thoughtless, oh yeah, I want to pilot a Gundam.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like in that very first second of finding out I have a wish, I don't know if I control myself as well as I'd like to think that I would.
Well, I don't know.
Right.
Like I said, I've thought about this for a long time.
We like to think, in reading, and this comic in particular, it's like, no, I would be very selfless. And, Floyd kind of has the idea because he has a great idea because he's basically wishing, maybe in not these words, but he's like, I'm wishing that I have an unlimited amount of wishes. Well, then you can get that, and then it causes this whole paradox. But I think one would say, I wouldn't be one of these people. But that's probably bullshit. To go, no, I would not be completely selfish and wish for something that only serves me. But yeah, there's a couple. So there's a couple at the top of my head would be that I for unlimited wishes, or well, I wish that I'm able to have pizza every single day.
You know what? I'm actually very surprised that throughout the whole thing, that they did not mention that you're not allowed to wish for more wishes, and no one at least,
They didn't. I thought they
no,
did a whole thing with rules at one point.
It's kind of like what Floyd did, though, in a way.
Well,
No,
what Floyd did was he started a business that said, "I'll do
Co-opted
this
other
in
people's.
exchange for your genie."
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
But that's, I mean, but then other people lose their wishes, and that's, that doesn't really work in the whole world of the genies.
Yeah, and then you find out too, don't you even find out too that they're all the genies are conferring with each other. So when people are making wishes, they even say sometimes someone will make a wish and they're like, no, we're just not doing that one.
Yeah, you just canceled out your wish, loser.
Yeah, not even a cancel out. I think they even say sometimes like someone makes a wish and we're just not going to grant that one.
Too grand of an idea that just is not possible.
Or something like that, which again goes back to Greg. I think you're very much right in the sense that the genies are like a Q-like being because they've made the rules for the Earth. Once the Earth gets to this population and it starts getting crazy, we're going to give them this gift. And we know this is worse than Thanos. It's not going to cut him in half. Doesn't it take him down to like from 8 billion to 80,000 or something like that?
Oh yeah, the number just keeps on dropping every couple issues.
Yeah. So I mean, that's
especially
why
after the scouring.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely some kind of controlling force because they say this is what we do. And they make no bones about it.
Well, they definitely have a character in the entire story. Like they're not just like, we're here to grant your wish, let us know what you want. They are definitely a presence.
They're talking and chuckling and giving us all sorts of information all throughout. And I'm going to just go right into issue 6. I would say issue 6 through 8. There's a lot of time jumps and things are happening very, very quickly throughout these last couple issues. So in issue 6, we're seeing that this idea man is really becoming a villain. He's gotten really full of himself. He's co-opted so many people's wishes. He's basically got an army of wishes. And he's not the only one. There's other havens doing the same exact thing. We see that the Chinese couple is building a haven in Ohio. 7 more years have passed. We see now that their child is now 8 years old. We see now Daisy reveals that the other 2 still have their genies. And they're able to get into a haven called the Fun City. They try to get in by, being a band, and the people who run Fun City are like, yeah, you're not that great. See you later. And then they're like, well, we still have our genies. Oh, okay. Well, you still have those. You should have led with that. Come on in. And that's kind of the world now. Just if you still have your genie, you're in a place of power. And if you're spent, you just kind of got to go along with what other people are doing, or, hopefully you have a haven that's protecting you. And basically what they do to get into this Fun City, they combined their genies. They make a wish that all 3 of them have to have like a one idea among them in order to complete this wish. And we see that play out over these next couple of issues, and it becomes very important towards the end. Issue 7, it goes 9 years past G-Day. We now see Ting Shu, which was the daughter of the Wangs, and she wants to call herself Betty now. She really hates her parents. Her parents at one point stop her from making the stupid mistake, using her wish, and she pretty much, hates them from that point on. It almost seems like, or just really just so mad with her parents for doing that to her. But they're obviously looking out for her, and we see them fighting with someone who wished to be this one with the sea, which I thought was pretty wild.
That was amazing.
I think to be one with the sea. She's like basically a sea monster, and they have to fight her. And that's how they basically get it to the next haven, which is called El Futuro. And then we do another time jump, another 10 years, and we see the lawyers are fighting with Floyd now. So Floyd, has got his haven. He's brought him over to another haven. They're trying to work out a deal. He's like, I can outdo you. No, I can outdo you. And Floyd's like, these guys don't believe in me. And they're like, yeah, we're lawyers. We don't believe in anything. I was like, this is
We
amazing.
we believe in everything and therefore nothing, I believe is what they said.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
we cut back to Betty, who's now 15 years old, and there's all the kids in that haven are all complaining because they're not allowed to have their genies till they turn 25. That's the rule of this haven, and they're finding out stuff from the old world. They're like, when kids were 18, they got to go out into the world and drink and smoke and fight, and why are they making this 25? It's so unfair, and just like they're so angry about it. But I guess we probably all be in the same kind of feeling at that point. We get right on to year 20. At this point, Robbie's dad, Ed, if we remember him from back at the beginning, he was the one that wished his wife to come back. Well, he dies. And pretty much as soon as he dies, that means Judy's going to be gone too. And right before she poofs out, she grabs her son and she tells him, this idea, man, I know you believe in him, but he's not everything that he's cracked up to be. And you really, really should, take a hard, long look at this guy because Robbie's basically been his enforcer for this entire war. And basically the reason why Floyd is in so much power is because he controls this super being along with all the wishes. And then we're into 23 years. We're seeing this wish war between the havens. And finally, Sunman gives in. He's like, oh my God, he sees Floyd attacking El Futuro. And, he kind of remembers, some stuff from back in the bar even. So he does know Betty, even though she was just a small child at that point, baby. But he does remember. So he takes Floyd, he grabs him, and he throws him right into that moon, who then eats him, which I thought was very just for him. And then right from there, Betty's parents, we see them die now, and Sunman offers to protect her. And we just keep jumping. We go to 45 years later, and now only Daisy is alive out of that group of friends, out of the band, and she still has the group wish. And then right towards the end, we're in year 80 at this point, and it's all kind of sudden. Like I feel like the story took place very quickly over these issues. Like I almost wanted it to be like a 16-issue series, just so I could get a little bit more out of it or see a little more character development. But yeah, Sunman dies. We see Betty has lived a full life. She's got kids, grandchildren, and then we get into issue 8, and this was just awesome. I mean, it starts off, with just two genies hovering over planet Earth, and everything looks normal, and you're not even really sure what year we're in at this point or where it's taking place. But as then we start to read, this is Will's backstory, and we find out just how Will, became what he is now. And we just see that he basically loved people, he killed people, he fucked people, he caused the Black Plague at one point just to keep the world population from growing. He didn't want the genies to come back again anytime soon because he wanted to extend this and learn more. And basically, one of his big lines, he says, "There's just a flaw in the design. Humans always say, I just wish I had enough." And it's what it all comes down to. There's just no perfect wish. So, Will says, as a human, it's not his place to make a grand wish to save them. And we get right to the end with two genies left. And it's Betty and Daisy back at the bar where we all started. And Betty's threatened to kill Daisy. She's like, you know what? I'm going to use my last wish. I'm going to be the last one. You're out. And, she realized that she just shouldn't be doing that. Like, Daisy's at this point learned so much from her life. She started off being, extremely selfish, trying to control somebody else's love. And now, as she's being threatened to be killed, she's offering her a drink. She's like, yeah, you know what? I deserve it. Kill me. Have a drink. Let's go. And Betty's like, oh my God, you're right. I should not be the person doing this. So, she realizes that she can't, and she wishes that she has no wish, which I was not expecting. I thought it might go in a little bit of a different direction, but so that, poofs right out. And then Daisy just wishes that everyone would love the way that they want to be loved. Went from our selfish love to love for everyone. And I guess that was just kind of like almost like a moral to the story that they're trying to tell us over these 8 issues as almost like a Beatles song. It's all about love. And that's just pretty much how I concluded. But so now that we're at this point where we've finished the book, I started off asking about a spontaneous wish. Now that you've read all this and know what could happen, what would obviously your wish would be much different, but where would you go with it at this point? Let's start with Jon this time.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, seeing that the way that the wishes turn out, what happens with the people who are like, oh, I made this really great wish, we have wish lawyers who help me word my wish perfectly and blah 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 blah. Really, kind of at the end of the day, if you're making a wish, like a wish that's just self-serving, uh, it's not really going to get you anywhere. It's not going to do anything. And that even really goes for like the superheroes who want to protect the planet, protect each other, protect other people from like harm and damage that could be done from other people's wishes. And uh, you start seeing like, oh, like this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work. I guess I would, just kind of knowing what I know, making a wish like I wish I had no wish would it almost feels like you would be seen in a better light by the genies, right? I don't think
Almost
I
freeing.
would. I'm sorry.
It'd be like a freeing kind of thing.
Right, it'd be a freeing kind of thing. I don't think I would wish that I had no wish. I feel like there would be something something greater that I could do.
Would you try to hold out to be the last one?
Probably not. I don't think I would try to hold out to be the last one, because I feel like that, in the case, like where it's like what, 700 years in the future, and like the one lady literally tried to kill her so she could have the last wish. I don't think I would. I feel like someone would be worthy of of that last wish, and I'm not necessarily sure that I would be the one who would be worthy of the final wish.
A lot of
But
pressure.
it's a lot of pressure, first of all. And like, what did they say at the beginning of that last issue? Like the last wish in the last world, uh, whatever it was like, yeah, for some reason he thought it was a good idea, and it just kind of it turned out to be just like, horrible and destructive. And so the genies are coming back.
And that's the
Um,
world, that horrible, destructive world that they're
yeah,
saying.
exactly right. Yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, I mean, the wish that I would make would be for people to have each other's best interests at heart. Like I would say, it's obviously like a variation of the I wish people would be loved the way that they want to be loved. I would say I wish that people would consider other people before they make their wish. Like that's I guess that's what I would say.
I like it. All right, perfect.
Yeah.
Greg, what about you?
Well, I think Daisy had the right idea. It really brought me back to something that actually happened in my family. There's no chance that any parties that were involved in this are going to hear this podcast. But just to be on the safe side, let's call this family inheritance silverware. Let's call it very expensive silverware. And these people became monsters, just as the people with all these wishes in this story. That this family, not that I'm so fond of all these people to begin with, but when this silverware presented itself, I hated every single one of them. And people were on the phone. It was the most ridiculous child. It literally turned everyone into savages, and that's what happens in this story. It's a moral theme that we've seen in many stories, which is where this story, it was done in a different way, but the moral of the story is nothing we haven't heard before. It's going to sound like I'm criticizing, you know, more or less I am, but really it's like, okay, this was an interesting way you told a story that's been told dozens of times, and we hope people inherently do know, you know. But so the silverware stuff started to just be so ridiculous that I pick up the phone, people that are fighting, and I say, I don't want any of this. And that reminded me of Daisy. So like, even to say, okay, I wish for love and happiness for every single human being on the earth. No, because there are people that do not deserve that. There are people that should be held accountable for things that wish harm upon others. So therefore, to say I wish peace for everyone, that also means that someone that should be punished, because there are reasons to punish people, they get off scot-free. And these characters in this story, most of them became absolutely, or were absolutely reprehensible. So I'm with Daisy. I thought she had the right idea in saying, I don't want there to be any more wishes. I don't want any wishes. And I'm thinking, I mean, would this be the case with me? Who the fuck knows? But I would say, you know what? I want to walk away from this entire thing because every single one of you has become people that I don't like. You know, you are completely selfish. It's all that matters to you is power and status, and that's humanity in a nutshell right now. So and probably always. So I think she had the right idea, and I probably say I don't want this anymore. Take it somewhere else. You know. And then it's also, if I could just conclude by saying, it's a very interesting concept that world would then reset, because a theory of even some scientists that might be what happens. I think it's in string theory where it's just kind of like the world will then reset and just keep going on and on and on. And that's why we have a consciousness right now, because if there was just nothingness after us, just absolutely nothingness, and our consciousness and we have no memory, and it's just, there ain't nothing. It seems a little impossible. So there are studies of this. It seems a little impossible that we can remember this moment right now, you know? So it's a very interesting thing. So I would leave it at the silverware analogy. And that I think, I don't want to wish because I don't know who all of you become.
I wouldn't want to be the last one either.
You were talking about Betty, by the way. She sacrificed her wish. Daisy,
okay.
Daisy was the one who wished for love.
Daisy's the one who did the reset. Yeah.
Right.
Good sir, Ken?
So I like when they describe their agreement of the three of them, that whoever's left will get the wish of all three of them, that they most accurately quote The Simpsons, and that it is a tontine. I love that with the fighting hellfish. That was like, once they did that, I was like, all right.
Yeah, I feel like the genie knew the episode right away. He was like, oh, that episode.
Yeah,
well,
exactly. So
the writer was clearly a Simpsons fan. There were a few visual references to Homer Simpson, at least a couple. So clearly a Simpsons fan.
Oh, and the Simpsons are definitely walking this earth at some point during this story. You know, somebody wished them into existence.
There's probably a country just solely populated by Simpsons. Like someone was probably like, make the Simpsons real life. And then,
Springfield to Haven. That's where I want to go.
Nice.
Nice. Yeah. There probably was a Springfield Haven.
Yeah,
you know what,
most obviously,
that's my wish.
And myself, I'm being like a complete gentleman right now by not admitting what my real wish would be.
Okay.
Hold them back.
You would wish for enormous testicles?
Who the hell wants enormous testicles?
I don't
know.
No. I'm keeping it cryptic. I mean, what person wouldn't have in their mind going, well, this is a little selfish to think, but let me create a world or something where I would be in complete paradise, you know?
Yeah. I mean,
leave it
whatever.
cryptic like that.
Right.
I mean, look, I got to keep going back to the I thought about it a lot, and the closest I could come to it with, obviously I'd need some kind of lawyerly help, but would be like infinite health. Whatever the hell that would mean.
Yeah, I mean, so that's what I was kind of thinking in the beginning too, and obviously the Simpsons thing is very interesting. But the infinite health is a little selfish too. I mean, I feel like
it's totally selfish. It's totally selfish.
It's selfish, yes.
Your friends and family in that wish.
It's totally selfish. Of course, I would watch everybody that I know wither away and die, but I guess I wouldn't. But at the same time, it wouldn't drive me insane, because my mental health would always stay intact.
Yeah. I feel like you and your family would have to get together and make like a group wish about health, that we're all going to be in this together.
Yeah, I feel like
that might work too. But that's the point. That's where all the lawyer crap comes in, that's why I appreciated once they brought in the groups of lawyers to construct the wishes. The first thing I thought of is, yes, this is exactly how it would go. Because that's how specific you need to be with these assholes, because they want to mess with you. So that's why
It
I
was
was
like
just
one.
yeah.
It was like one page that was one long wish, just like going over every
Yep.
little
He was-
possible
and
detail.
and that's why
talking-
you got to realize lawyers, a good lawyer would be beyond rich in this world, at least for a few weeks.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, so he was even saying like that's how the world got wiped out and there was all that radiation and whatnot. It was like too dangerous to go outside. And the genie was like they were like, "Oh, I thought you prevented this kind of thing from happening." And the genie said, "Well, yeah, we usually try to, but sometimes people word their wishes so precisely that we can't work around it." And that's how the world became the way that it was. And then, of course, I'm sure that was done by a lawyer. And then, of course, it was, the what was it called? The re whatever the that was done by a lawyer as well. The wording. So yeah, that's why you have genie lawyers, wish lawyers.
Oh yeah. So
Ugh.
obviously, I love this book. That's why I pushed for it, and I enjoyed all rereading it again, all 8 issues. I still do think that the last issues quickly for me. If anything, I'd want it, like I said, to be longer. I'd like to delve more into a lot of these little havens and get a little more character depth in some of these people. And I know you were saying if they did a show just to stick to everything, but I kind of think of the opposite. I'd like them to kind of go into more character depth and see more of these stories.
They would have to.
No, well,
It
I
couldn't
think
be
I
formatted.
think
Drag
the
it out.
character
Drag
depth.
it out.
No, the character depth. No, that's fine. What I meant was like the last few episodes where they're doing all those time skips. That usually when you get a property like a movie or a TV show that's made out of something like this, that's the stuff they cut out.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
just saying
yeah.
there's so
And
many.
also the idea that I didn't want them to expand beyond too much of the content of the comic, because then you get people making up their own concepts of what the comic's supposed to be. And like, I'd like them to stick to the source material. If you want to flesh out characters a little bit, that's fine. I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, no, I'd like to see more of everything. Like I don't know, like I'd be okay with it. Like really just even some fresh ideas of like there's so much time that took place towards those last 4 issues. We went through so many years. Like I don't know, I'd like to jump into like year 45 and maybe just spend an episode there at one point, if it becomes popular enough.
Yeah, no, it would be fun. It's so bonkers, and they could go, so many ways with it. Just the idea that, they're sitting there having a picnic, and then you know, like a dinosaur comes and eats the moon,
Oh my
and
God,
then
yeah.
it's nighttime, and and they're just sitting there, like barbecuing,
Like nothing's
You know,
happening. Yeah.
like yeah, like oh, meh, okay.
Well, I definitely feel
Yeah.
like you guys all enjoyed this as much.
Oh my God, it was.
Oh yeah.
And you know something? What you talked about, that it went quickly.
Final rating. And let's start with you, Ken. So you're ready to go.
There we
Oh
go.
no, I'm sorry. No, I just thought like what you said about how it goes quickly. That's one thing I found out about is this was like a little bit longer in content than we usually do, about 6 issues, and we did 8. But what I found, like, this went really, really fast.
Yeah, it's a
And
fast rating.
even in the parts where there was like a lot of dialogue, it seemed to move really, really quick. I remember like reading it and I was like, I'm halfway through in like a day. I'm like, it was just because it pulled you in really quickly. And
Yeah, you could
one of the
definitely bang
things-
out all 8 issues in an hour if you really wanted to.
Yeah, and it's just because it keeps your attention, really, really well. And that's one of the things that I found about this that I enjoyed, was that some of the stuff when you got to read through, like you got to get through it and you're like, all right, I'm going to get through it. And it's interesting, but it's a lot and I'm going to make time. This was just, once you went into it, it just, like it was just like rapid fire through it. So it was so enjoyable. So that was, that's how I felt about
I'm
it.
glad.
I recommend it to anybody. It was really
Yeah,
great.
I try to tell
Thanks,
everybody
Jason.
in my comic
was-
circle, please check out this
Yeah.
book if you haven't already.
Yeah, it was a
And
great
like I said-
choice. Home run.
And like I
Sure,
said, if
sure,
you do
yeah.
enjoy this writer, I mean, he does awesome Star Wars stuff. But if you want more zany stuff, these two collaborate on a lot, and they everything they do is bonkers. It's all, like I said, the first one that got me was called God Hates Astronauts. I just saw the title and I was like, I don't know what this is about, but I got to read this. Why does God hate astronauts?
I mean, listen, he has not been very kind to them through the years.
No.
A lot of them. So, anyway.
Yep. All right. What about you, Greg? What are your final
Um,
thoughts on the?
Yeah, I mean, as someone who's not a comic book reader, it held my interest all the way through. I can't say that I loved it because it's nothing that hasn't been explored before, but it was done in a pretty unique way. And I think I got done with the entire thing. If you want to put together the entire time that I was reading them, I say I got through the entire thing in 2 hours.
Okay.
But maybe I
Yeah.
slowed down at some point. Maybe.
And John, let's throw it back to you before we close this out.
Hi. Yes. I really, first of all, Greg, I understand what you say when you say like, oh, this has been explored before. The idea of people either abusing their wishes or not understanding the consequences of wishes that they make, yes. But the idea that everyone in the world suddenly has a wish, I don't think that that's ever been explored. I think that has been that's a brand new idea. Um, yeah,
Yeah, not how I meant it. Yeah,
yeah,
I mean the theme of
yeah.
just humanity and this selfishness, selflessness, and materialism, and all this different stuff of what you would wish for and the selfish. I didn't mean because
Yeah.
everybody had a
Yeah, you
personal
just mean the
gene.
themes of the story.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah, I get
the
you.
themes absolutely I understand, but it's like the what they did was they kind of played around with it a little bit rather than it having personal consequences. It could have consequences that are like dire and like, affect the entire world. But yeah, I see what you're saying. I always love a good wish story one way or another. Genie, monkey's paw, whatever uh whatever it
Pee
may
Wee
happen to
Herman's
be.
Playhouse.
Pee-wee's Playhouse, absolutely. Always consequences to his wishes. No, that doesn't actually happen. Those are wishes that get granted because this guy's spoiled and he's a personal genie who he has trapped in a box. Anyway, um, oh yeah, by the way, in Zombie's origin, Pee-wee gave his wish to someone else, and he got rewarded by getting another wish, and then he was able to fly. So, as per this story, I was very entertained. Now, I'm gonna just say something random here. What's his name? King Power the Star, right? Was that it? Was that his name? The superhero? He said, so he takes this new kid out and he says, "Oh, what's your name gonna be? The Sun." Oh, well, it can't be the Sun because I already have a star themed name. So how about we call you Sun Man? And I'm like, why is that better? I don't understand. But anyway, so uh so read that. I saw it by issue 3. This kid had wished for superpowers and he was going out and he was like, "Oh, I'm fighting with a superhero team against these supervillains." I thought to myself, "Oh shit, this is going to become a superhero story." And I was very happy to see that it did not actually go that route. And any instance of there being superheroes on the page was pretty satirical. And they were like, like, oh, you wish to be a superhero, you wish to be supervillains, and like, these people, blah blah blah. And it almost feels like that's how superhero teams and supervillain teams originate because they wished it instead of it just being an origin story. But yeah, I do love the idea man, how he like no one ever listened to him, and so when he finally got people to listen to him, he abused his power, and he had all of his team of genies that he had accumulated to cancel out wishes against his thing, and the genie's like, yeah, I know, but I'm not going to tell you, and blah blah blah. If the other side has more genies. Um,
The Wish War. Yeah, I like
the
that
the
panel.
wish
That was
war,
a
yeah,
good couple pages.
Yeah, that was
and then
crazy. That was yeah.
so jumping ahead, like, and these were like just like a few things that kind of popped out at me. These people, the band, the what do they call the Bada Booms, the Bada
The Bada
Bams,
Bangs.
the Bada Bams. Um, they stumbled on this neighborhood that this lady wished, into existence. She was like, "Oh, I was happy there from the ages of 20 to 24, and everything was like basically stuck in the 80s, you know." But they're like, "Hey, this place is great. We'll stay here for as long as we possibly can, of course, until she dies and the place just vanishes from existence." I've frequently spoken with my brother saying, how much would it cost to take our old neighborhood of Riverdale and restore it to how it was in 1990? So, like, you know, the wish was there. Like, I wish I could be living in this neighborhood, you know, in 1990, and this was great, you know. Of course, we wouldn't be able to have the remnants of the people who were there. That's something that we liked. Now, I had mentioned the Homer Simpson thing. Two things. At the end, after 700 years of genies, this guy has a grade A rating in his bar. I said, why does he need that? There's no one else going to this bar. It's not a thing. Anyways, but that's just a silly thing. But and the last thing that I will say about this is that I liked in his story that when he established this bar, all of the bar names that he came up with were wish related. Falling Star Inn, Wishbone Inn, Blown Candle Social Club, the Wishing Well, and finally the Lampwick, which was, you know, it was clever. It was a creative thing. And of course, because he's a genie, his place is going to be named after, you know, like something
The lamp.
wish related. The Lampwick. And you know, other than that, you know, like we had kind of through this episode gone through all of the personal aspects of the story, and you know, I feel like all of those things have been pretty well spoken about, and so I was free to talk about the things that I really enjoyed about the story, the Homer Simpson references and the wishes, the you know the wish related bar names and whatnot. So yeah, I really did enjoy this story a lot, and I'm glad, Jason, that you pushed for it. And yeah, that's it.
Awesome, guys. Well, I'm glad we all got together and read this one and mostly enjoyed it. You know, maybe if there is a TV show down the line, we could all watch that and then, you know, review our process here.
Talk about it on this podcast as Lamb Chops.
Yeah, that's right. We'll bring it over to that side. I like it.
Hey, there you go. All right.
Take us
Okay.
home, John.
I'm going to take us all out here. Since Jason, you were the moderator, I'm going to let you plug all of your stuff first.
Yeah, man. So it's Jason Gurin. Last name is spelled Gurin. If you want to look me up on Facebook, there's a picture of me kind of close to a horse. So if you see that, that's me. We're staring into each other's eyes quite lovingly. And I'm on a group called Comic Book Villains on Facebook. Come over there, talk comics. You know, we always post our podcasts there too. If you need to look for a place to find them, you can find them there as well.
Beautiful. And Greg?
Okay, so it's Greg Vorob. I'll spell my name Gregvorob. And so my truth social is no, just kidding. So my YouTube is at Greg Vorob, and I'm getting very irritated because people that should be going there are not going there. So please go check out my YouTube page of all my past projects. There's essentially everything that I produced with All Things Random is there. And one of the first Gablotnik productions is there called Podcast Pals Meet in Person. And you can see John and all these people from all different podcasts are on there together. It's a minute long, and you could check that out. It won't take up too much of your time. So at Facebook, add me at Greg Vorob, and I also have a like page there for my acting, which, yeah, it's pretty dormant, but I don't want it to be, and it won't be one day, so check that out. That's also at Greg Vorob. I'm on Blue Sky at Greg Vorob. So now when I get to podcasts, what I'm going to do is I'll start with Real Reactions. So that's Real Reactions with Greg and Kyle. But remember, that's REEL. And that's myself and Kyle Bain. And that is modestly on Spotify and iHeartRadio now exclusively. I don't want to call it modestly. It's exclusive. We have exclusive deals with Spotify and iHeartRadio. But where I would tell you about Star Trek: The Undiscovered Podcast is here's what I'll do. I'll tell you about the present of Star Trek The Undiscovered Podcast. And when Ken promotes, he could tell you about the future of Star Trek The Undiscovered Podcast. So check out the entire back catalog of Star Trek The Undiscovered Podcast. It has 3 full seasons plus many, many bonus shows. We've got a few bonus shows coming up. I don't know when this one airs, but we have one dropping with the panel's reactions to the season premiere, the first 2 episodes of Strange New Worlds season 3. And so, yeah, and you could find us on Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, Good Pods, all of them. So Star Trek: The Undiscovered Podcast, check all those out. We've ended season 3. We're going to go into season 4, and then how do I say this? It isn't my ship anymore after that.
Well, that's very cryptic, Greg, and we'll find out exactly what that means. Of course, next season, as is my understanding, because I wasn't sufficiently tortured for season 3, I will be sufficiently tortured in season 4 at some point. So watch out for that. And Ken, talk about yourself.
Well, I'm 5'5", and I enjoy nice walks on the beach, which I hate because of the sand.
Wait, so you enjoy it and you hate it because of the sand?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Eh.
And that's just about me. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening to this episode of The Hour of Comics is Upon Us. You will be able to catch me on Star Trek The Undiscovered Podcast Season 4, where I will.
Well, you are on it now, Ken, though. You are every.
Well, I'm on it now, but I will unceremoniously push Greg Verub aside.
That will be on video, by the way.
And then we will fight with knives. And there will be no winner. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. So anyway, Star Trek The Undiscovered Podcast, Season 4. We're going to be, starting a whole bunch of new episodes. Mr. Jeff Howell and myself will become the new hosts of the series. We're going to have, it's going to be a ton of fun. We have a lot of great ideas. I'm really excited about reviewing the animated series, but that's going to be a whole other thing. And we hope we could all, find you jumping over there.
And so sorry. Yeah, finish up. I'll say
no. Go ahead, Greg.
Jeff Howell is
if that's your real name.
Yeah. Jeff Howell, I know, is going to be doing the Lower Decks episode, and it already has been noted and notarized that Jason Gurin, you will be part of that episode when they get to Lower Decks.
Excellent.
And guys,
delightful.
Wait till you see what we do to Jon in this upcoming season,
which will also be on video.
Yeah, it's going to be glorious. It really will. It'll be worth the price of admission, which is free. So there you go.
It'll be right up on stage, possibly in the middle of a basketball court. Anyway.
And you know what? There you go. And and then I have a bunch of subsidiary podcasts in the bullshit area that I think Jon's going to cover. So
I will cover that.
Guys.
Kenneth Radner has reached out to me recently, requesting that we do a specific movie on the subsidiary of the Bullshit Hour with John Seymour. Ken, can you remind me of the name of that movie?
All right, so I believe it's a 1993 movie called Freaked.
All right, so the name of the movie is Freaked. Excuse me, Freaked.
Yeah.
On this podcast is Lamb Chops, which I guess will be the next project I'll be working on for the future, unless something else comes up like The Hour of Comics is Upon Us. But we'll see. But this is The Hour of Comics is Upon Us. Listen to my other podcast, Bullshit Hour with John Seymour, and its subsidiary. This podcast is Lamb Chops. We will be doing the movie Freaked on this podcast, Lamb Chops, at some point in the near future. Look for me on Facebook, Jon Seymour, Jon space Seymor. I have and I'm not proud of it, changed my profile picture to mock and mimic the whole Coldplay thing where I'm like have my arms around someone and we both look very surprised. So yeah, that's me on Facebook. The guy who is in my arms is a gentleman by the name of Tom Osa, very intelligent, good-natured gentleman. Uh, Anyway, so yeah, that's that. And see, Chris Cyanide, my band, Chris Cyanide, that I play drums for, which is bass drums and violin, on August 2nd at Nostalgia, which is located at 380 North Wantagh Ave in Bethpage, New York, and Long Island. And then see us again at Lucy's on August 16th at 446 Bedford Road in Pleasantville, New York. I guess that's about all. I look forward to watching the horrible shit, horrendous Star Trek episode that I was promised recently.
You know, John, you have plenty of time for that, though. You have plenty.
Yes.
It's next year, 2026.
Right.
Yeah.
2020. Oh, yes. I'm also scheduled to appear on Real Reactions in 2027. So
Yes.
look out for that. Look out for that episode. Anyway, so with that, I would like to say thank you, Greg, and thank you, Ken, and certainly thank you, Jason Gurin, for moderating this episode. First time, wonderful job. Thank you so much for doing
Absolutely.
that.
Yo, no, you were
Yes.
great, Jason. You
Absolutely.
Appreciate it, guys.
And Ken
I
is
modeled
clapping.
myself after you, John.
Oh, well, no, you shouldn't do that. You sounded like your own person,
Oh,
and that was good.
I took
Anyway,
your...
what's that?
I said I took some of your ideas. And
excuse me, this is a theater critic here. No, I saw Shadows of Jon Seymour, but Shadows of Ken Radner, and you put them both together and made your own
Jason
thing.
Gurin. Jon Seymour plus Ken Radner equals Jason Gurin. That's how it works.
You know.
All right.
Maybe even
Yes.
Shadows of Greg Borup.
Well, we don't want that, though. I'm joking, of course. All right. And on that note, I will say goodnight, Greg, goodnight, Ken, and goodnight, Jason, and we will see you next time.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.